Start. So, hi.
Two.
We are being recorded. Hi, everybody. I'm Mindy Towsley. I'm the Executive Director of the Artist Archives of the Western Reserve. Welcome to Travels to Taiwan, a Journey in Prints with Karen Beckwith. Before we start, I am just going to do a few things. I'm going to introduce Megan Alps, our Marketing and Programming Manager, and Kelly Pantoni, our Collection Registrar. I am not going to introduce Karen. We're going to wait. She's special, so we'll wait just a little bit. I do want to take a minute to thank our funders who support the archives, the David E. Davis Art Foundation, the George Gunn Foundation, the Zufall Foundation, the taxpayers of Cuyahoga County through Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, the Ohio Arts Council, our volunteers, which includes our board of directors and all of our committee members, as well as all of our members. Anyone can become a member of the archives. It is different than being an archived artist. Membership cost per year starts at $20 for students and goes up to $5,000 for guardian level. Our annual exhibition of work by our artist members is up right now in our gallery space, and that will be up through May 6th. We are located in University Circle, just down the street from Cleveland Institute of Art. I would also like to take just a minute tonight to thank the Ohio Museum Association. They honored us at their annual awards dinner last Sunday night in Cincinnati. We are now the proud recipients of the 2021 award for Best Community Partnership for a museum with an annual budget under $500,000 for the exhibition Converge. And I would like to take another minute to thank the community partners that made Converge possible. That's the LGBT Community Center of Greater Cleveland, Lake Erie College, Metro Health, and Judson Manor. I'd also like to thank our team of curators led by Kelly Pantoni, including Tony Williams, Sam Butler, Mark Yesenchek, and our intern curator, Mary Proctor. And especially thank all the LGBTQ+ artists who were part of Converge. You make beautiful, compelling works of art. Keep up the good creation. And we just want to applaud you for your bravery to be out in a time in a country when many are still so intolerant of differences. We really appreciate that. The Ohio Arts Council granted money for Converge, and all of the individuals and corporate business sponsors who helped us match that grant money, I'd like to thank you very much for your generous donations, especially Doug Van Auken and Kim Proctor. They volunteered their time and energy to help us get those businesses and individuals to donate, as well as volunteers like our very own presenter tonight, Karen Beckwith, and John Sargent, who helped us install and deinstall artwork at the LGBT Center. Now you're all wondering, when the heck am I going to stop talking and how am I going to bring this back around to Karen? During Converge, Kelly and I realized that we had no lesbian artists who are archived in our collection. Artwork by lesbian artists, not the artists themselves, by the way. So Kelly started a fundraiser on Facebook, so where people could donate to help with the cost for that. And I am very proud tonight to say that Karen Beckwith was accepted by our peer review committee and our board. Her artwork was accepted, and she is our first lesbian archived artist. And she actually has received a proclamation from the state of Ohio congratulating her on that. So it's pretty exciting. So that's all for me. I'm going to turn it over now to Megan, and she's going to give you some housekeeping and introduce Karen. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program today. So as Mindy said, my name is Megan Alps, and I am the Marketing and Program Manager for the Artist Archives of the Western Reserve. I'm so pleased to be able to present the program today, and it's one of the really unique opportunities our programming provides, being able to take a real deep dive into the creative practices of an artist. And in this one, you really get to see the world, even with all of its challenges, through the lens of creativity and through the lens of that artist. And that's been really important over the last several years with all the challenges we've had. This experience is even more special because when we get to peel back the layers on the curtain of an artist of Karen's caliber. Karen, a little bit about her, is a dynamic printmaker who deploys her formidable technical prowess to uncover the deeper and often overlooked stories of everyday existence. Beckwith graduated from the Cleveland Institute of Art with a BFA in printmaking and illustration. In 1998, she became part of a premier group of printmakers who have completed the Taoyuan Institute Master Printer Fellowship, making her one of just over 100 printmakers in the world who have a registered shop mark with Taiwan. Beckwith has exhibited widely, including internationally in Taiwan, as you'll see, and Russia, and her works are included in prominent private and corporate collections. In 2021, as Mindy mentioned, Karen was added to the permanent collection of the Artist Archives of the Western Reserve, becoming the first out lesbian artist archived among our ranks. So amazing stuff. Karen lives in Cleveland and produces prints at Ping Pong Press, K2 Studios, and is the current 2022 Artist in Residence at the Morgan Conservatory. You can visit her on Thursdays and Fridays during April and May. Karen, hopefully that is correct. Let me know if not. And that would be the amazing Karen. Before I begin, I just have a couple of quick Zoom housekeeping notes to just let you know how the program's going to run today. Chat, yay, it looks like a chat bubble. Go ahead and feel free to communicate with fellow attendees or the archive staff. Use the raise hand feature in Zoom or drop a line in the chat if you're having any problems or need assistance during the program, and Kelly will get to you, I promise. Just don't raise your actual hand because I won't see you. Yikes. Q&A, best part of the program, right? If you would like to ask Karen a question, we have two ways of doing that today. The first, you could ask her a question out loud. It would be just audio, no video, and because it's a webinar format. And how you would do that is when prompted at the end of the presentation, I'll ask anyone with questions to raise their Zoom hand, and then I'll call on you. And then we ask you to just ask the question, one question, so it doesn't turn into too much of a dialogue between you and Karen. We love it, but want to get to everybody's. If you're feeling shy, the second way of doing questions is to put them in the Q&A function at the bottom. So that's the two bubbles, and go ahead and type them in there. And we will go ahead and I'll read them out loud for you. Please don't put any questions in the chat. Honestly, I'm going to miss them, or likely I'll miss them. And they're really important to us and I don't want to. So finally, some accessibility measures. We have closed caption and live transcription available during the program today. To use that, just go ahead and click on the CC icon at the bottom on your Zoom tool ribbon. That's where it appears on most computers. And then if you want, you can do the live transcription, which will run along the side of your screen typically and give you the entire program text. That will be able to be saved when the program is complete. So, all right, without further ado, I present to you Karen and her marvelous presentation. So I will see you on the other side of that. And now to Karen.
Oops. Hang on. Okay, here we go.
Yes, looking good.
Phew. All right, first click. Made me nervous. All right. Well, thank you for that amazing introduction, Megan and Mindy. And I'm so excited to have the opportunity to share some of my journey to Taiwan last year with everybody who was able to tune in. So real quick, I'm going to give a little backstory on why I went to Taiwan in the first place. I was there in 2016, the first time, and very much in large part, and huge thanks to Liz Moggins and Zygote Press. They had just begun a artist exchange with Bamboo Curtain in Taiwan. And on a Friday night in 2016, I got a call from Liz, and she said, "Hey, there's this thing in Taiwan, this place called Bamboo Curtain, and I think you should be the one to go, the first one to go." So it turns out it was a 2-month residency at Bamboo Curtain, which is in New Taipei City, north of Taipei. And it was founded by Margaret Shu, who's on your right of the screen. And unfortunately, Margaret passed away late last fall. And I didn't get to see her while I was over there, but we had been texting prior to that. And she knew I was going to be able to go in 2021. So she knew I was going to be there. So it meant just a huge amount to me to go back to Taiwan and in 2021. And the one thing that Margaret said to me while I was there, which just really, really stuck with me, was that she said, Karen, I don't care if you make one thing while you're here. What matters to me are the people you meet and the connections that you make. And that has really stuck with me for the last 5 years. The young man behind Margaret in the rainy photo is my friend Francis from the Philippines. I met him when I was there. He's been to my home. We're still really great friends. So I'm just going to show you a couple of, oops, my bad, images of Bamboo Curtain. This again was in 2016. We had an open house at the end of my residency, and we're showing work of similar. I did this huge investigation while I was there and made paper and did a site-specific project for Bamboo Curtain before I left. And one of the most just amazing things was, again, all the people that I met. I have friends now in South Korea, Indonesia, India. That's me in the middle holding a little kitty that I nursed back to health while I was there. So another really huge connection that I made at that time was I met Professors Boris and Professor Roxanne, who are professors at NTNU, National Taiwan Normal University. And Roxanne is an amazing printmaker. And he came up to me and he said, oh, Karen, I would love to send students to Cleveland to study with you. And I had no idea how I was going to make that happen, but I knew I had to make it happen. So over the next 3 years, so 2017, 18, and 19, my partner Julianne and I, who's in your upper right, having a little map lesson with the students, have hosted students from Taiwan to come and stay in our home for 3 weeks. On your upper left, Cindy, Ian, and Sai Lin with the first group, and Irene, and Coco, and Alyssa with the second group, and then Ying, Huan Yi, and Young Chi were here in 2019. So I would teach them as much printmaking as possible and arrange for maybe a trip to Praxis or the Morgan. We made paper and did fiber and, did some touring around Cleveland as well. And Julianne would put on her teacher hat and we'd have some, lessons at the kitchen table. So it was really just an amazing experience. And so all of that to say, when I was invited in 2021 by Renshin Lin on your left, he and his wife Yu Ting Su run MB Moore Studio and Print Shop in Taiwan. I met them on my first trip, but Renshin was the one who reached out to me in 2021 and invited me to come back. And Yu Chen Chen on your right was really instrumental in getting me there this time around. And I was invited for the Taoyuan International Print Exhibition, which was supposed to go on exhibit last May. And this is an amazing show. I did see it when I was there in 2016, was the last time it was hosted, and the show was up. So I was able to see it then. So when I was asked, it was a great honor to go back and be a part of this exhibition. So off we go to Taiwan in the middle of a pandemic. And I will say this, that one of the reasons that I went at that moment in May last year, there was no COVID in Taiwan. So I really felt like it was one of the safest places that I could go in the world. So off I go in the middle of a pandemic, and I arrive at my hotel. I was ushered through the back door and up the freight elevator, and they had one floor in this hotel that was a quarantine floor. And the rule was this: I had to stay in my room for 14 days, was not allowed to go out, and have any contact with any people for 14 days. So the basket on the floor outside the door is where my food would show up every day. And this is my room, which was, I think it was 10 steps from the front door to that giant window. And I was very thankful for that giant window, because 14 days in a room it could be claustrophobic. So I never closed the drapes. I left them open the entire time. So a lot of people ask me how I survived 14 days in quarantine and in this room. Part of it was I did have this amazing view. I was on the 16th floor, and I have friends. All those friends you saw in the previous slides sent me snacks. And if you know me at all, you know I need snacks, and I like snacks. Young Chi, who was one of our most recent students, actually teaches up the road from where I was, and she knew I love mangoes. So she sent me mangoes. She would send them every day. If I wanted them every day, she would send them every day. I would get a knock at the door, and there would be goodies in my basket. And Ian sent me this great little puzzle on the left-hand side. So that kept me busy. And then my very good friend, Kelly Pontoni, who's the registrar at the Artist Archives, sent me off with this goodie bag of 14 envelopes, one for every day, and then glue sticks and Sharpie markers. And I had something to open every morning. And I always travel with my Swiss Army knife scissors. Thankfully, I hide them in my shoe, in my checked bag. So I had a teeny tiny little pair of scissors to cut things out. So I made a little book, and let's see if my video, yay, works. So I collected all of those envelopes, some of which she had made out of found paper, some I made out of bags that were showing up at my door. And I was saving stickers from the food. Young Chi sent me candy. So, and the handles, there was a little box I would get every day with food in it, my breakfast in it. And it happened to be Mother's Day while I was there. So Young Chi sent me some extra goodies for Mother's Day, and 1608 was my room number. And I was staying in Chateau de Chine, which I appropriated some stationery and other things I could find in the room. And that helped me a lot. And I ate a lot of, or rather drank a lot of instant coffee and something like Jell-O, but it was way more tasty. So that gave me a project to do as well. And I also just really had myself on a routine. I would get up when the sun came up, which was early, about 5:30 in the morning. It gets dark really early there. So it'd be maybe 5:30 at night, and it would be dark out. So I kept the curtains open so I didn't get too crazy in there. And I watched people. There were some folks I could see. This woman on the left who was hanging her laundry. The image on the right, there was a man. I don't have a great shot of him coming out the door, but he would come out every day and hang his laundry. And I have this just really huge interest in people hanging laundry. It's something, we all wear clothes, we all wash clothes, and how we do that and what we do with that, I find really fascinating. So a little bit, I felt like I was in a Hitchcock movie, like Rear Window, but no one could really see me because I was on the 16th floor. I could only see them. So it didn't seem too creepy. And I would watch the light change. So again, the angle from the 16th floor was really pretty fascinating. And I zoomed in on this must have been early morning. The sun was just coming up. So I kept watching the traffic and the lots of scooters in Taiwan going by. So the other thing that helped me get through quarantine was I took a travel watercolor set with me. I hadn't done watercolor painting in quite a long time. And thankfully this windowsill was nice and deep. So I moved my little table and I would pull up to the window and and do some sketches out the window and work on watercolors. And one day this mourning dove camped out outside on the window ledge just to keep me company. So that was kind of fun. And I had in the previous slide, I had a fake bird sitting there. So I wondered if she could see that bird if she was curious. So I'm looking straight down at the left-hand side. Again, just observing the textures and the roof colors and the corrugated metal, which is something that I really love. And these are little, they look massive, but these are just little teeny postcard, not even postcard size, trading card size pieces of paper that I was doing textural studies with the watercolors. And again, just the roof line is so fascinating, and the color variations and all the textures I could see out the window were really helpful. And I had nowhere to go, so I could just do a lot of observation from there. And then this may look like the same image, which it actually is, but at this point I had been moved down to the 8th floor because my 14 days of isolated quarantine were over, and I was really excited. I thought, wow, I'll get a new view. Well, they moved me directly down in the same exact corner, just 8 floors down. So I was closer to the ground, but I was looking at the same thing. But the other exciting part was then I could go outside. So this is where I was. On your left is the front of Chateau de Chine. Like I said, that's where I was staying. On the right is the corner from which I was looking out. So 8 and then 16 floors up, I was looking at those bicycles longingly. I'm a big cyclist, so I couldn't wait to get on a bike. So I started walking again after 14 days of doing yoga and just pacing in my room. I was really excited to start walking. It was hot out. It was late May by now, so it was getting warm out, but I was happy to be outside nonetheless. So what I like to do is really just wander around. I rented a U-bike. This bike sharing system they have is amazing. I could ride all afternoon for about 50 cents. It's really cheap over there. So I hopped on a bike and went for a ride, and the crazy thing was that it was really pretty deserted out. At this point, I mean, there had been a COVID outbreak that started while I was in quarantine. So when I came out, things were questionable. Not everything had closed yet, but there was certainly chatter about things shutting down. So this is another example of my sketches turning into watercolors from some of the houses that I found when I started wandering around the neighborhood near the hotel. So I was still there, like I said, for another week. And then, so next step here, this Just Sleep was my new home. I got picked up by Renshin, and we were moved into Taipei so that we had an opportunity to meet each other. There were 3 of us that had come to Taiwan. I had met, on your left is Andrei Martinoff. He's an independent Russian curator who had curated a body of work that was going to be part of the show, and most of which had gotten lost in transit. So he physically brought the work. And on your right is Harumi Sonayama, who is a masterful lithographer from Japan. And actually, the Cleveland Museum of Art has a number of his prints in their collection. So I think you could find them on their website. I would love to see them in person. Excuse me. Right now, Sonayama has a show that just went up in Russia with a number of his lithographs. And the unfortunate part, by this time, a number of things were shutting down, and Sonayama was supposed to teach a workshop in lithography that I was going to assist with, and that got canceled. So things were starting to get canceled, and it was really questionable whether or not the exhibition would even happen at this point. We were holding out some hope, but still not really sure if it was going to happen. One good thing that came out of my meeting, Andrei Martinoff, the Russian curator, was he invited me to participate in the third international triennial of contemporary graphics in Novosibirsk, Russia. And so I happened to have some extra prints with me. So I sent some back with him, and those were shown in Russia in September of last year. So like I said, at this point, we're not sure if the show is going to happen. I had a couple of days still in Taipei, but let me say this Zeeman Plaza is an area that is usually jam-packed with people. So there was absolutely no one out on the streets. So they really were beginning to shut down businesses, and this area also is where most of the LGBTQ venues are. There's a number of establishments in this neighborhood, and again, everything was closed. So it's just insane that I was walking around and there was nobody on the streets. So I did take advantage of that fact that I could ride up the middle of the road. There was no traffic, and just really gather information and get a good look at the kind of places that I like to see. But for the train station to be empty is really unheard of. I traveled to visit Ian, one of my students, excuse me, on the train, and there was only a handful of people on the entire train. So, but since I have all those friends and connections that I mentioned, I decided to stay. My initial plan was to stay in Taiwan for 2 months. And, I called back home and I checked in with Julianne, and she said, if you feel safe, then you should stay. So I reached out to Cindy, who was in one of my very first group of students. And I had planned on meeting her anyway in Keelung, which is where she lives with her family. But she and her boyfriend, Kevin, came to Taipei and picked me up and took me to Keelung, which is on the northeast corner of Taiwan. So this is Cindy's home, and she's knocking on the window because her mother had locked the door. So, and on the right is a watercolor that I did of their home this was a parting gift, but as a thank you for them letting me stay with them for essentially what ended up being a month that I stayed there. So I was working on that while I was there. So I stayed in their home up on the third floor, the third level of their home. And this actually is a house that Cindy's grandpa built. They had added an addition up there to make that third floor in 2019. So it was really a beautiful spot, and they were so generous to let me stay. And this was the view from the roof. So I could almost see the ocean, which is right there. So you're looking at the East China Sea, which is really just a 5-minute walk down the road. So I had time, and sorry, me and the mouse there. I had lots of time, and I decided I would keep walking. Although apparently not up the mountainside. A lot of the mountain trails were actually closed due to COVID. And again, they were taking this very seriously. Like I said, there had been no COVID in Taiwan. And so they were even shutting down the trails up the mountains. So I didn't quite get all the way. So I went back down and really started investigating the neighborhoods around Keelung. And again, there's just the texture is one thing I really find fascinating about Taiwan is just its rich textures and varieties of materials, from the metal, corrugated metal, to old clay tile, to newer tile, and everything in between. So I continued my investigation of all of these kinds of surfaces and materials that I really love. And the thing I had the most access to really was my watercolors and what I could paint and start layering up different textures. And here's the laundry again that I always seem very much fascinated with, how people manage their clothing, and this color palette is one that I'm playing around with right now, actually. So a lot of the neighborhoods are these just small alleyways that meander around. So I would poke around in there and again just continue to investigate the back roads and see what I could find there. Again, just really interested in the awnings and the textures of the laundry hanging on the lines. And again, we're looking at a very deserted train line, and the neighborhoods still continue to be pretty much empty, but yet they gave me so much. I mean, I was so thankful to be able to be there and have the time that I had there and see most of the people that I had wanted to see. Not all, but I was able to see most of my students. I think I saw all but two of them in at least either meeting at a train station or somewhat. So when I ended my time there, I came back home and decided that I really needed to translate some of this work into print work. So I'm going to show you a little bit of my process. So the previous image, specifically the one on the right, the lamppost, is something I've been working on right now, and it's not exactly finished, but I'm going to show some of the process of how I got there. So what I've been doing is taking an image, a photographic image, and I put it under a piece of plexiglass and will do a monotype, meaning I'll use different braiders, rollers, braiders, little pieces of card or credit cards, and essentially paint onto the plexiglass. But I have a little bit of a map of the print that I want to do, the image that I want to do that's underneath the plexi. So that way I have a little bit of an idea of where I want to go with the color. So then this gets put on the etching press. And this I do print at Ping Pong Press with my friend Corey Slauson in Cleveland Heights. So she had set up a print shop in her basement, and that's one place that I print where I can do larger work. So I'll pull an impression of that plexiglass plate on the etching press, and there's a version of it on the right you can see, which is really just blocks of color. And then what I'm going to do next is drop a screen print on top of that. And the image is currently upside down on the screen, but you'll see what happens when I put it on top. It just really pulls the image all together. And another thing that I have been doing with these prints is using them in a window and essentially creating a new image with the windows, using the image of the laundry and then textures from some of the walls or other parts of prints that I've created, and then attaching them behind the window, which gives this whole other dimension of viewing and becomes a portal into the picture. And my hope is that it gives the viewer a little more sense of what it's like to actually see some of these scenes in a somewhat real life setting. And this pair of windows on the left actually is on view at Fig Graphics in Cleveland right now into, I think later into May. And for those of you that don't know screen print, this shot was just to give you an idea of what the screen looks like when it's not being inked up. So I have taken a photo emulsion which coats the screen and then expose the screen to light in a darkroom setting, and it burns the image into the screen. So essentially what I end up with is a template of the image so that you can put any kind of ink through that. And the ones that are on the table are just proofs in black and white of these. There's 5 different images that I'm currently working on. So I always will proof them in black first, just to make sure they're printing all right. And then it gives me some idea of where I can go next with that. And this is the entire series of windows that I had done this past winter. These were hanging. I apologize, the quality of this image isn't the best I could get. But there were 5 in the series that were hung out at Beechwood in the rec center at a show in January. So these are all, this whole series is called Situational Observation. So again, just taking snippets of, you know, all of that traveling around that I showed you about, and most specifically from Taiwan in all of these images, and then taking them apart and putting them back together and creating this, what I hope is a really sense of looking and being in a place, and to have a sense of place. So I was pretty happy with how those all came together. And this, if you remember from earlier, I had a shot of the I love hair sign from my window. So I went wandering around at night once I was able to get down on the ground, and did some photographs at night. And the light and all the signs in Taiwan are really pretty amazing after dark. So my translation of that into a print was to take some actually older monotypes that I had printed at another time, and I was really looking for some that had really strong color and really powerful color, just to give that sense of, you know, neon lights, but without really specifically creating a layer or an underlayer to go with the I love hair image. And so I had done a series of those that I thought had that sort of, you know, nightlife, crazy lighting going on. So I was pretty satisfied with how this one turned out. And this is another, back to my meanderings in Keelung, you know, thinking about the people coming and going from their homes, you know, and leaving the shoes on the stoop. That whole evidence is a big word for me, you know, this clues that people leave behind. I think that's why laundry is really important to me. And so for this image, I decided to try a different process. I am a lithographer, as Megan mentioned in the beginning. I'm a Tamron master printer, and lithography is a love of mine and something that I'm especially skilled at. And so I thought I would try, rather than straight up screen printing, which I had been doing quite a lot of recently, I thought I would try a lithograph as a way to translate some of these images. So in this slide, I'm doing what's called an aluminum plate lithograph. Again, what I'm working on is an etching press. So I don't have access to litho stones or a litho press at the moment. So it's a way I can create a lithograph on an etching press. And I've come up with a sort of manner of working that has been going pretty well. So what I do is I ink up the plate on the glass slab rather than on the press itself. So what you're looking at is the aluminum plate with my drawing on it in black. And then I will translate that to this, what's called a blend roll. So the blend roll lithograph layer is those two colors merging and had been printed from the aluminum plate. And then on the right, I dropped a screen print layer on top of that to tie it all together. So this is an image that I'm still playing around with. They're not titled, they're not really finished necessarily. These were a little bit more just investigations into the process for me, and to see how I could translate a somewhat photographic image into a lithograph and take it maybe one step away from a straight up screen print. So then we have, and this is another shot from Keelung. So very, very much a port city, right? So we're lots of boats, and there's a place to tie up the boat on the left of the photograph. But this little chair was just sitting there, and I was really fascinated with this chair, and it was, you know, clearly had been outside and weathered and been sitting there for quite a long time. So I liked the grittiness of that, and then the metal gates behind and the texture of the asphalt. So I did a screen print translation of that chair that I then printed over top of a monotype. And again, this under layer was something that had existed, so it has some memory of an image from another time. But I have a whole drawer full of prints, and I think all of us printmakers do things like this, where you have things that you know, maybe aren't quite finished, and I'll print on it someday. So this one seems to work really nicely underneath the chair and give me a variety of textures. And I like the color combination that was happening under there too. And back to my laundry, which is my favorite thing. So again, this was, I believe this was a walk that I took down into the city of Keelung, and found this line of laundry up on the second floor. It might have been higher than that even. And again, there's always folks hanging chains and just to put their clothes outside, because it's like, by now it's like 90 degrees outside. So it's really hot and things dry fast. So on the right, this, I didn't give this one a subtitle, but it's actually called a screen print monotype. So this varies a little bit differently from the monotypes that I'm running on the etching press, in that I'm actually putting gouache onto the screen directly and printing that on the paper with what's called a transparency. So I'm pulling a transparent color through the screen to then push the gouache onto the paper. So it has a more painterly quality in a way that the oil-based ink monotypes don't. And this is an underlayer for something more to come. I'm playing around with some different techniques for adding mark that's more of my hand and a little bit less of just a direct photographic translation of the image. So, but I'd like, and I may decide that this is done right now. I just, like I said, it's pretty fresh, hot off the screen. So I put it in just to show a little bit of my process, but I haven't decided yet if it's finished. So we'll see. Stay tuned on that one. And then this image may look familiar to any of you who have yet come to the archives to see the member show. This was the inspiration for the piece that I have in the show right now. And again, this is just like, this was one of the most yummy corners I could find in the middle of Taipei, that this building has wood and brick and metal and steel and every kind of material that I could imagine. I went back to this corner a number of times just because I found it's so rich, and that arrow is that big, and it's in the road. It looks fake, it's so big, but it really is there. And so I thought I would use this as inspiration for another piece. And in this case, we're back to the oil-based monotype. So as I was saying, different than the water-based through the screen monotype. So I have underneath here, I have a layout of the buildings, and in this particular one, I had added even more on the side. So I lay out that color palette, and I'm just adding blocks of color. And this is really a way for me to work and to play a little bit more. I tend to be a little serious in my printing, and some of that comes from, I think, being a trained master printer and having to be perfect in everything that I print for other people. And I would say I am a bit of a perfectionist myself anyway. So there's something about this process of monotype play. It becomes just really playtime for me, and I really enjoy that. And I seem to be able to let myself cut loose a little bit in ways that when I'm drawing more particularly that I have a hard time letting go of. So this was really exciting for me to work this way. So then these are the two layers that comprise the finished piece that's at the Artist Archives member show right now. So on the left is the print from the plate that you just saw, again with these blocks of color laid out that maybe aren't quite too exciting on their own. Parts of them are, but I'm losing the image a little bit. But then I drop that screen print layer over top, and it just pops and pulls it all together in a way that I find really exciting, and also in a way that I don't think I could do if I started out with the key image and then wanted to add the color. I think I would be too controlling about it. So this way of working has been, like I said, has been very exciting for me, and it's something that I really just stumbled upon as a means to get color into my work. I came up with a way of working that I thought would really be successful for me. So I feel pretty good about that. And so this is an example, as I wanted you to see what the underside of that piece of plexiglass looks like. So this is a different image. And actually, to say this print, Back Alley, Corey, Pennsylvania, on the right-hand side, is currently hanging in the Taoyuan International Printmaking Exhibition right this minute. That exhibition got pushed off until this year and right now. So I find it very fitting that the print is hanging right now. And I'm hoping to get and starting to get some shots from friends over there who are going to see the exhibition. I think it's fully installed, but the opening is Friday night, which actually right now in Taiwan, it's Thursday morning. So stay tuned on that. I'll make sure if I can get a link or anything to Megan about the exhibition, I would be sure to pass that on. So what I wanted to say about the image on the left was that, so this is the backside of the plexiglass. So what I've done is I had printed an impression of the image on a piece of Mylar, and I tape it on the backside of the plexiglass so that when I flip it over, I can see the image through the plexi. So it gives me a bit of a map of where I want to lay down the color. And I can also turn it over, like in this shot, and see how I'm doing. So I can see if I want more, more orange in a spot, or if I want more red or yellow in a spot. It gives me a chance to kind of preview what it's going to look like before I print it. So I have a lot of control actually that way. So I am going to say that Taoyuan International Print Exhibition 2022 is open now in the Taoyuan Art Center. So if there's anybody on here that's in Taiwan, please go see the show and tell me what you think. So that's the end of what I have. I may have talked too fast, but that gives us room for questions. So
Awesome. So if you'll go ahead and stop your screen share, Karen, that was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to go ahead and start the Q&A. No, it wasn't too fast. It was great.
Okay, good.
And there's richness. And now I want to fly to Taiwan and see the show. So
yeah, me too.
So first I'm going to actually, it looks like first up on deck, we have Stuart Pearl, who has raised his hand. So Stuart, I have, go ahead and allowed you to talk. Can you go ahead and say, check if I've allowed you to talk, won't you?
Mic check, mic check.
Wonderful. So go ahead whenever you are ready.
All right, thank you. Karen, thanks for being our program for tonight. Loved all the images, loved the narrative visuals as you took us through this, wonderful walk through the city streets. And even though you were the prisoner of Zenda on the 16th floor for 2 weeks, I really dug how you peered down onto the rooftops and through the laundry lines and checked out people's lives in that. My question is this now, as you wandered around with camera in hand, and I don't know if you had a camera or an iPhone or whatever, beautiful images.
Thank you.
Would you periodically find really special favorite spots and then revisit them at different times of the day to check out the different lighting and see the different shadows and textures that would be revealed under those different sorts of illumination?
Yes, definitely. And especially the corner I mentioned right towards the end there. Yeah, I would get up early or go back at night and see how the light had changed, or yes, and the light there is very dramatic, it seems, for some reason, and I think it's just where Taiwan sits on the planet. But so when the sun comes up, the shadows just seem like crazy intense, and when the sun goes down, the same. So absolutely. And I also, since I was in Keelung for such a long time, I would walk and could walk to the seaside in 5 minutes. And I had just gotten an iPhone 13 Pro before I left, and I found out that I could take photos at night. And I also have a really good camera, but I found out on the iPhone that I could take photos at night, and it just would light up the sea, because I went down to see the fishing boats out at night, and I tried both. I had my camera and my phone, and I got some amazing photographs at night with that iPhone that I never could have gotten unless I, sat with my shutter open for, 10 minutes on my camera. So yeah, very much so. I checked out the same spots a lot at different times of the day.
That's wonderful. You had both cameras there. I'm a long-time traditional camera user, but I will never criticize the modern smartphone for its ability to do what is evidence that you really grabbed hold of and executed beautifully. I mean, they're just superb shots. It's interesting too. I noticed that it looks like you would typically shoot a picture either through a normal or wide angle lens, but when you would go to printmaking, you would use a telephoto viewpoint to narrow in on those subject elements that seem to interest you the most.
Yes, very much so on that too. I'm very interested in all those textures. So yeah, I think honing in on that is really important to me. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Stu. You can tell immediately that Stu is a photographer, right?
I know, right?
Known for everyone who's on here, also known for his quality of light in his images. Stu is also an archived artist, and we just had an exhibition called Stories in Light. So thank you, Stu. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
All right. So next up, does anybody else have a question that they would like to ask out loud? If not, I will go ahead and move over to the questions in our Q&A. I see one more. Okay. So I see one from Donna. So let me go ahead and get that going. All right, Donna, you should be able to speak, hopefully with the magic of Zoom. Oh, do we potentially, hold on, one more. I'm going to ask you to unmute. There you go. Go ahead and give that a whirl now. Did you have a question, Donna?
Can't hear.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and Donna, pop in the chat if you do have a question, if you would like to, but I'll go ahead and move on to the other questions in the meantime. So sorry about that. I'll meet you for a second. Sorry about any technical difficulties there. In the meantime, in our Q&A, we have a lot of good questions for you. Let's see. We'll start with the first one that's going to be like the easiest one, which is from Karen Losey. Are these for sale, Karen? Shameless.
I'm sorry?
Are these for sale? Are your works that you're showing? Shameless artist plug time.
Shameless artist plug? Yes. Everything is for sale, yes.
And where might somebody who is inquiring purchase said works?
You can check out my website, which is karendbeckwith.com, or message me on Instagram, which I see Kelly posted that. And I will be in a couple of shows this summer. I am participating in the Cannes Triennial. I don't know where yet. That will be happening. I will be in Lakeland College in July. Kelly Pontoni is curating another LGBTQ+ show. There will be work there. I'm all over the place. So, but direct message at the moment it would be the best.
Most excellent. All right, so we have another one that I was going to say from Rachel. So this was inquiring about the residency itself. So what was the goal of the residency you were attending in Taiwan?
So the residency was the first
one would have been, because the
first trip
for the exhibition, right?
Yes. So the 2016 was a more formally structured residency. So I was there for 2 months. That was the allotted time. And it was really one of the most amazing open-ended opportunities an artist could ask for. I could do whatever I wanted, which is great and terrifying at the same time. If you've never traveled internationally, which I had not ever been out of the country. So I did a specific piece for Bamboo Curtain, which I didn't have a shot of a bicycle that I was working on. And then the goal, really, given what Margaret had said to me, which was to not worry about making, just being there and taking it all in. My end goal was to do just that, to meet as many people, make as many connections as I could. And that has just grown over the past 5 years.
Oh, I'm so jealous of the immersive situations. They seem just so amazing to do. We have one from Julianne. I'm excited. And it was so this is Julianne, this is Karen's wife.
He's downstairs.
Oh my gosh, don't you love Zoom? That's great. So, okay, this one is one that we're all subtly asking as Americans. How was the food? What did you eat every day?
Oh my goodness, the food is amazing. And if any of you I'm sure there are people on here who did follow my entire trip. I posted a food shot every single day of what I ate. But I'll tell you this, seafood, the most fresh, amazing seafood, especially in Keelung, because I was right by the seaside. And I'm telling you what, Costco over there has sashimi and sushi like crazy, crazy good.
Costco in Taiwan?
Costco in Taipei, massive Costco in Taipei. Oh, they have IKEA too, yes.
Global economy, I tell you. So back of a pivot to your work. So this one is by Barbara Martin. And so it says, bravo, Karen, wonderful, wonderful work. You're so inspiring. Do you let the oil paint on the monotype dry first before you print on top of them? or do you work in wet oils? You can tell an artist questions, and I love them.
Ooh, yes. So as because I'm combining oil-based ink with water-based screen printing ink, that oil-based ink absolutely has to be dry. So I cannot be in a hurry. I have to wait sometimes at least a week for that ink to dry before I can drop that screen print layer on top of it. Otherwise, oil ink gets on screen print and makes one big mess. So it definitely has to dry.
Actually, it looks like I have another raised hand as well from Rachel, who we just did the question on. So I'm going to go ahead and Rachel, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. And you can tell I'm not an artist, which is why I asked about what the goal was of the residency. So the second trip, was that also a residency, or what was that? What was the moniker?
Right. The second trip was, I was invited specifically to participate in the exhibition.
Oh, okay.
And then also would have, had there not been a COVID outbreak, I would have been able to have a little mini residency at another print shop. You know, that got canceled. The workshop got canceled. So everything else that printmaker structural wise got canceled. But the main goal of that trip and the main invitation was to participate in that exhibition and be present for that. The rest of it was me staying because I was there and I had friends I could crash with and I was going to stay.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. That is
you.
Good clarification too. It really brings it.
Sure.
Not everyone gets multiple trips to Taiwan, so totally understand.
No, if you're there, you better stick around for a while.
I have a great, so I see Kelly give me the notification. There was one more hand. Trying to see. Who is that, Kelly? I'm sorry, I'm missing that. Oh.
Gloria Plevin had her hand up. Oh, there it is.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Let me get to Gloria. See, and you are perfect. Okay. So Gloria, whenever you're ready, I believe I asked you to unmute. Gloria is one of our archived artists, an amazing artist herself. There we go. Gloria, how are you today?
Oh, I'm well, thank you. As another artist, I first of all, very, very much admire the beautiful work that you do. However, what I do not ever see is a person. And do you ever have people in your artwork?
Good question, Gloria. Not much, hardly ever. And the reason is that my interest in how and what I like to talk about and show is the trace of the people or the place that they live or the so there's, I would say 90% of the time or more, I do not have people in the work. And it's really just that I feel like it leaves it a little more wide open as to the interpretation, especially in the sense of place. Now in Taiwan, you might guess them in Taiwan if you see a sign or something that's in Chinese, right? But I also did do this kind of work in either from based on Cleveland or based on Pennsylvania, where I'm from. And I really like this sort of anonymity of the place. And so I don't show the people for that reason.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question.
Yeah, and actually we had a couple one on it, and I do see the one more hand. We'll get to that too, which is that from Sandra Lester, which is, do you feel if people had been out and about, would it have influenced or changed the project? So even if you don't picture them, even being around the people, like if that texture, that situation was different, do you think the prints would have emerged as a different product?
Interesting. I think no, and here's an interesting thing, and this happened when there were people out and about in Taiwan the last time I went. Folks are so nice and kind and considerate there that I'll be taking a photograph and they will stop. They won't walk in front of me. They would stay out of the way while I was shooting, this doorway or this window or image or whatever. People would not walk in front of me. So they wouldn't even accidentally get in my shot. The nicest people in the whole world in Taiwan.
And such an American thing where they're literally
They're like,
I will selfie on top of your body.
yeah.
Well, I see another hand raised, and let me go ahead and then allow Chen to talk. And just unmute. So Chen, whenever you are ready, you can go ahead to unmute yourself. There we go. Did you have a question for Karen?
Yeah, hey Karen.
Jen.
So, hi. Yeah, so thank you for this wonderful talks. It's so nice to hear your voice and hear you talking about your experience and your project.
Thank you.
Yeah, so my question is, so I really love both of your prints and watercolor drawings, and then especially the lines in your watercolors. So I'm curious about what's like then you decided in your print you use photographs to create the outlines. So I'm curious about your decision making. So why choose photographs instead of drawing?
Yeah, Jen, that's a great question. And interestingly, and I don't have a slide of a print I just did, and I'm really excited about this, is that I'm beginning to shift. I think initially, it was because I was going from lithography, which was very much about drawing, into screen print, which I find way more graphic. And it seemed to make sense, at least in my brain, to do it, more photographically based. But I've been wrestling with that. It's like you're in my little brain. I've been wrestling with that recently, and I just pulled a print where instead of the photographic layer, I'm actually drawing the line that pulls it all together. And that's really exciting. Unfortunately, I don't have a slide of that to show you. But that's exactly where I'm at, because what I was finding was the photograph was starting to take over, or I want to dismantle that photograph. I think it had been a transition to get me there, but I'm very much starting to move into that line that I so love, that I do in my watercolors, right? It's a way to kind of pull all the processes together. So that's a super question.
And Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, but Chen is from Taiwan, right?
Yes, and
yes.
She was one of my students at CIA.
Yes, how great.
And she is maybe in Boston. I lost track of where she's at. Yes.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Yes.
Love
Boston.
you, Karen. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So good to hear your voice.
You. Awesome. So I'm looking at we're 8:10, so I'm going to buzz through the last couple of questions. We got some ones online. So, this one everyone Karen. So I believe you touched on this slightly, but Karen, why do you find, this is from Judy McGinnis, why do you find laundry such a simple chore so intriguing? I know you touched on it slightly, but
yeah, I know. I keep
moment to elucidate.
My moment to elucidate. I think one thing, and I have this memory, and I know y'all wanted to show pictures of me as a little kid, and I didn't let you do that. But when I was a little kid, I lived in the country, and my mother would hang out the laundry in the backyard. At the time, it was actually very traumatizing because I rode the bus, and we turned around in my driveway, and all the kids would see my laundry, my clothes hanging out in the line. But I have this memory, and there's just something about that as this basic necessity of things, and that we all do. And not everybody hangs their clothes out, but I still do. Even in my home, we run a line outside. So there's just something really down to earth about that I find. And I think that's maybe my one sort of entree into the fact that the people are missing in my imagery, is that the clothes are hanging out there. So it's that little bit that gets the viewer closer to the actual people.
I love it. There's still evidence of humans. There's still
Evidence of human,
existence,
exactly, right.
You don't see the physical humans, and it almost makes you think more about their lives more if you don't have that direct reference point of a face that we like to hook on so much.
Right. Just their shirt or just the shoes or whatever. Yeah.
You think about that life in a different way. Ah, love it.
Right.
Look at laundry differently. Probably.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at laundry differently. The next one is from Donna Simmons. So Simone, thank you very much. So has your understanding of being a master printer changed over your career? The work I see today, to me, is mastering, with capital M, in a very different way than immediate post-school work. So this is obviously someone who's known you and known your work.
Long time.
Oh.
Very long time.
Love it.
Yes. I think yes, my definition of master printer, I have begun to internalize for myself, because for those who are listening that don't know the definition of master printer or what that means, I'll just give a sort of cliff note version. I was really trained in the art of collaboration. So say Megan decides she wants to do a print and she has no clue how to do it. She would do the drawing, the conceptualizing of it, but I would handle all the technical part of it. My expertise is in working with other people. But I've really begun to turn that in on myself and give myself, the best of me and not give it all away, right? So I think yes, since you've known me in a long time, I'm giving that to myself and not so much to other people.
Love that. So good. All right, our last two we're gonna do. So this one's an easy one, and then we'll end with a good sort of broad one, which is from Jim Sopsola, and he is, and please forgive me, I know I always butcher your last name. Jim's a member and an amazing artist in his own right. Is there a typical size you like to print in? Because of course, when we're seeing images on PowerPoint, it's super easy to, get dislocated. So what do you typically do?
Sure. A lot of the pieces, especially towards the end, I'm working as a printmaker, like half sheet, which is 11 by 15, up to 22 by 30. Somewhat that pushes the limits, especially of a screen print that I can physically pull by myself. So a lot of it's more, I would say, like maybe 12 by 18, a little longer, or in a more square format. Unless I'm collaging, which is the next goal, to make things bigger, but putting them together.
I want to see it. I want to see the Frankenstein. Final question is from Bear McGinnis, and that is, we have one more. I think we'll buzz through them quickly. So we're going to do 2 speed questions at the very end, and then we'll wrap it up. All right. For people's time. So Bear asks, so amazing work, he says, do you think moving forward you will expand your reach to other countries in the future? More archaeology through print in other places?
Yes, Bear, good question. Thanks, honey. Absolutely. As any opportunity presents, I would definitely do it. I'm hoping to connect to my buddy in the Philippines and possibly India, if at all possible. But I would travel anywhere. And I have a friend in Chile who's coming to Cleveland this summer, so I'm working that connection. So definitely more travel on the horizon.
And final question of the evening, which is Yen Sun. Please correct me if I'm wrong with that pronunciation, Karen. But this is crowded Taipei and empty Taipei. Which one would you prefer more? Because as a Taiwanese, it's not uncommon to see that empty either. And then through your photo, I see the different sides of Taipei. So cool. And the printing and the painting, I love them so much. The color is so you. You create a unique feeling, and it says love in parentheses.
Yay.
So I believe the core question too is that what did you prefer more from an artist standpoint, the crowded city or the emptied city by the unnatural situation of COVID?
Wow. Good question. I'll tell you what, the thing I missed, I did miss the crowded city, because it also meant, and maybe it's hard to just separate, because the empty city was due to a pandemic, so it was like shut down. but I do miss the crowded version. I mean, just the life and the energy that all the people bring. I really did miss that this time.
Well, fair enough. Karen, thank you so much for hitting all of those questions. If you have more, and for your amazing presentation, if you have any more questions for Karen, Kelly, do you have an email or something we could pop in her link?
Sure.
What would be the best way to contact you if they have additional questions, Karen? Through your Instagram account? What would you prefer?
Instagram or email, and I think Kelly had put up Instagram.
Yeah.
And
Got it.
and there's my email's in the chat as well.
Perfect.
So, yeah, either or, great.
Make sure you get the Karen D. Beckwith.
Yeah,
for
D, don't miss the
Instagram.
D, or you'll get Karen Beckwith at Case Western, who'll be really mad. So just my emails all the time.
So Karen, thank you so much for doing the presentation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. Just a quick plug. So our next program is going to be a basic photo editing workshop we're really excited about. It's free. There's 2 different sessions that are offered. There's a smartphone session with the amazing photographer Rin Clark. That will be on Wednesday, April 27th in the evening, 5 to 6:30 p.m. And then we have a desktop session or laptop that will be the following Saturday. I believe that's the 30th, 1 to 2:30. So we just put the information on the website today. You'll be able to register tomorrow because I didn't have enough time to get those registration links on before the program tonight. Have to be an octopus. Lots of hands, lots of pots. But that is to help artists learn how to edit their work for use in online submissions and use online. So really good stuff. Without further ado, I'm going to kick this back over to Executive Director Mindy Towsley to close.
Thanks.
This evening.
Thanks, Megan. Karen, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you shared your process with us. I hope that people aren't going to start copying it, but it's really great that you're open about that, and beautiful work. And it looks like you have enough inspiration for a lifetime there from your photographs in Taiwan. Really, I can't imagine how long it's going to take you to sort of go through that whole inspiration of that trip. So I'd just like to thank everyone again for coming. And I am going to share my screen again. Please don't forget to take our survey, which is going to pop up at the end of this. If you'd like to become involved in the archives, please become a member, join a committee, make a donation, visit us. There's the dates of our members show. We hope to see you. We're open Wednesday through Saturday, Wednesday through Friday from 10 to 4, and Saturday 12 to 4. So hope to see you soon, everyone. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks again, Karen. Great presentation.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.